Hey everybody, how you doing? My name is Adam Everett Miller with aetuts.com, and I'm just going to show you a brief example of what we're going to be discussing today. Stellar. All right. So what we did there is we kind of have the, actually let me just go back up to it. What we have is kind of it's a little bit of a write-on effect as the, as the outline of the words are coming into existence. It's kind of leaving this kind of smoke trail behind, and just kind of creating a cool little misty look. And I've noticed that in a lot of commercials lately. They're just kind of leaving these little like vapor puffs behind them, and I think it's kind of a cool effect. And so I wanted to experiment and see if I could do it myself, and I did. So I'm going to show you how to do that really quick. Well, first off, what we're going to do is let's just get started right away. We want to open up a new composition, and let's go down. We already have it selected, square pixels, and 20 seconds with that extra 3 in there, just for free. And we have a nice black background. We need to create text with an outline so that we can have it right on. So let's just write aetuts, right? And it's aetuts plus, because they're giving you more than they ever did before. And I have it at half. Let's change it to full. And okay, so the filter that we're going to be using is called the write-on filter. And what we want to do before we apply this filter over here, notice how the text itself, this is the layer of the text, in this bounding box. So what we want to do is we want to make it so that the filter applies to this entire area. And we'll get back to that in just a little bit, and we'll explain why. But pretty much we want to create a new black solid and drag that below, and then we want to pre-compose both of these. We can go up to layer and down to pre-compose, or simply just select them both, hit Control-Shift-C, and we have ourselves a pre-composed layer. And we'll call it words, just to avoid confusion. Well, now that we have a pre-composed layer, we can go over to write-on, and look at that. Beautiful. Okay, here's what write-on is really quick. And if you guys already know this, you can scrub ahead in this tutorial, or you can watch just to make fun of how elementary this tutorial is. But what we want to do right off the bat is we're going to set the beginning brush position. So let's just start right down here. And you notice that, like, what's going on here? What write-on is it's almost a keyframeable mask. So you'll notice we can increase the brush size. We can get this thing huge, okay? So as you drag it around, well, okay, it's still kind of confusing. What is this? Well, right now the paint style is set as on original image. If we drag this down and go to reveal original image, now we can see what's going on here. Wherever the brush is, it's almost kind of scraping that part away, or almost, I mean, in essence, it's just creating a mask, which will then reveal whatever's behind it. So, and this is keyframeable. You can set the position here, and then, a couple frames later, set it over here, and it's just gonna kind of almost draw a paint line to reveal this. Pretty stinking amazing. So, let's back that up, and let's change it back just so that we can see what we're doing. Let's bring it back down. It's way too massive, so let's crunch it down. You want to make the brush size just a little bit bigger than the width of your line, or whatever the outline may be. And let's just go ahead. I'm just going to do the A right now, just to, for the example's sake. We will set a keyframe for the brush position, and I'm just going to hit page down a couple times to move forward. And let's go ahead and start revealing this A. Notice that as I go, it's affecting the layer, or the last keyframe. It does create kind of a curve. So when you come to these right angles over here, that's something that you got to keep in mind. Let's go forward a little bit and keep going. Notice this was, as I drew it, was going over to the T. It's not always going to be this fat, thick line. As you begin to really stretch it out, you got these little spaces in between the dots. And typically, just to avoid any frustration, because as you start getting long lines, you might start losing some information. So I try to keep my frames pretty close together and not do any long, because over here in the T, you could just, I'll set a keyframe there and then we'll set another one there. Well, I tend to, make 2 or 3 keyframes just so that there's a lot of little dots. I think there's only a limited number of paint dots per thing. I don't know why they don't just do a solid strip, but hey, that's fine. That's their call. Okay, so let's just continue to go up around, and we'll go through. I'm just moving forward a couple page downing every couple frames, and then we can go right into this guy if we want to. And you know what? Forget that. Let's not do that. You don't want to watch me go through all those. You have the basic idea, right? We'll come and go reveal original image, and as we go over all these keyframes here, you can see it's kind of drawn itself out, right? Pretty amazing. Okay, so let's just hit N to bring that up, and enter, or 0 to get a little bit of a RAM preview, and that's not a bad speed. But let's just say this is way too slow. You want to just go poof and just fly on there really fast. We'll just select all your keyframes, just like any keyframes you want to put together. Hold down Alt or Option if you're on a Mac, and you can stretch them out so that it drags out a lot longer, or you can crunch them down so that it's much faster. Basic principle. Take it, lock it away, put it in your pocket for later. Okay. Well, I as I started doing this tutorial, I realized that you're not always going to be dealing with convenient text that you can apply this little stroke to. I already had it with the stroke. Maybe I should have explained that. Typically, what'll happen is you write it, you have text and it will just fill in, right? So that's fill. You can swap it, and this is the outline. So you have your fill over here, and you have your outline over here, right? Well, if you swap it, then your stroke is on the outside, and you could change that to whatever color you want to. That's fine. But you don't want to have anything on the inside. I mean, you can if you want to, but all this said, this allows you to actually create a stroke around the outside, and you can make it bigger or smaller, depending on what you want to do. But a lot of times you don't have one. For example, let's take this New York Yankees thing. Oh, I just opened a GIF and it's going to default over to fireworks. I got to change it. Okay, hold on. Yes, there we go. So we have fireworks. So here we have a delightful logo. Well, this logo itself, it's already flattened, right? Well, what we can do is let's just pop over to Photoshop really quick, and this might be common sense, but you take your logo. What you do is you can just, with it selected, I'm gonna change that background color so that you select right here. Whatever the logo may be, this is kind of a common sense, and it's pretty boxy and pretty basic, but you can get rid of the background. Then you simply right click, add a little bit of a stroke. We'll make it white, and let's make it a little bit fatter for the discussion. Let's get rid of this guy over here. I don't know what this is all about. Trademark. Yeah, I'm gonna get in trouble for this. So you can basically, I'm doing this just to say that you can add a stroke to anything you want to. Then you save this. I'm gonna get rid of this bad boy. You save it as, let's see, what do we want to save it as? New York. I've already done this, so I was just showing you. Yes, sure, I'll save it. And okay. Then as we get rid of it, we come over, we pop it into place, and sure, okay, everything's delightful. And scale it down, and here we go. Pre-compose that, and you have yourself another logo with a stroke. It's awesome. So good. I know what you're saying, Adam, dude, this is not that fun. Come on, when are we getting into the good stuff? Well, here, let's just begin. I'm gonna go ahead and pause it and just go through this, because you do not want to sit and watch me go through adding a stroke to the entire thing, because that's just gonna be tedious. So I'm gonna pause really quick, and if you want to do it, basically, you understand this principle, right? It's just pretty simple. Okay, I'm gonna go through, and I'll be back in like pretty much right now. Here we go. Okay, so I've gone through and just applied it all the way across the board, right? And oh, did I miss the A? Oh no, I didn't miss the A. We're good. Okay. You got to watch these little guys on the inside. Sometimes you forget about them, and then when you go to finally do the end product, you're like, where's the inside of my O? And that's not good, because every O deserves. Oh, I just noticed a problem right here. Perfect example of what can go wrong. Okay, so let's drag this in with the right on. There's a lot of problems you can run into. Not a lot. There's like 3. But it's one that I run into a lot, so it feels like a lot. Okay, you notice right here, what's ended up happening is from one keyframe to the next, okay, I I've missed this chunk. Well, what'll end up happening is when I go and I choose to reveal, I'm missing a few chunks. I did it on the T2. What a fruitcake I am. Okay, so what you do is, you know, a simple way, let's just take this keyframe right here. Let's just bring it back into place. And let's see if, okay, and that should be fine right there. Well, another thing that's ugly is, okay, right off the bat, you're left with this. So typically, if you just go to reveal right off the bat, you can get a basic good idea of what you want to do. And notice we have a little bit left over here. This means that at some point the mask is kind of touching, which is this fat end of the T over here. So you need to kind of go and do a little bit of a trim up. So right now we want to bring that in, and just so that in your end product you just watch through the movement, watch through the motion, and make sure it's good. This one I need to as well bring in a little bit, and then as it goes to there, kind of tuck it in. Okay, and we'll go through all the way to the end and make sure we're clean. Oops, I'm dragging it back down, and rock solid. That U, it's a little weak. Hold on one moment. Let's deal with you, my friend. Haha, deal with you. I'm such a tease. All right, and page up. Let's just make that last one right there. Okay, and then we can move right along. Okay, so it's looking pretty clean, looking pretty stellar. We got our right on. I decided to wrap it around. This S looks like it's kind of upside down. I guess it's just very even. I decided to, for the S, kind of go around it. I didn't want it to just pick up right there, so I wrapped it around and had it start from the edge, way over there, because I thought that would look a little nicer. Okay, so that's the fun aspect of right on. That's more of the simple stuff. I'm gonna save it really quick as OES, oops, or PPJ. Oh yes, good. So now, what about that cool smoke effect, Miller? What's going on? Well, let's show you that really quick. Very, very basic thing. I know I saw a lot of flack on this website earlier about people using Trapcode Particular. There's a lot of controversy about that, but honestly, guys, I just got to tell you, it's worth the money. It is the ultimate program. Hold on a second. Is my layer even here? Oh, it got moved over just a hair. Let's even it out. Perfect. Okay. Trapcode Particular, like I was saying, amazing. Solid. I like to make my solids. I don't like black and white typically. I like to make them very bright colors, because then what happens is I have a nice little bright thing, and I know that I can just change my colors there, but I like visually seeing it over there. So let's go into our effects and presets, and let's add particular. Okay, and if you haven't seen any of the other tutorials on this site or on any other site, tutorial site out there, particular is a rockin' awesome plugin. It's basically just a particle generator, but it has so many options. It's so customizable, and that's what we're going to be tapping into. So you can also keyframe the position, and that's the basic principle. But what I like to do is I'm the guy who got his hand caught in the cookie jar basically as soon as as soon as I get anything new. I like to play with it, but I like to play with it to the max. I mean, it's like on your first date wanting to just start making out right away. That was a bad example, but I've never done that on a first date. But so we have the number of particles that are being emitted, and pretty much as soon as I got this plugin, I was like, man, let's crank this thing up. So I just pretty much anytime I do it, I just hit 9 a bunch of times and then hit enter to see what it maxes out at. Which for particular, it's what is it, 200,000? Yeah, and so I'm thinking, all right, and I just want to test it, see, okay, what can the computer handle here, and it's not that bad. I'm saying that to say that's basically we're going to be maxing out how many particles can be used here. So let's just go back down, bring it back down to 100 here, and the basic idea is if we turn our words on, we have the position of the emitter, which is this guy wherever we want it to be. And then we have the position of the right-on stroke, which is that guy, which is keyframed. Well, instead of sitting here and taking this emitter position and where do we have it here? Green solid, effects, particular. Instead of sitting there and then going through and re-keyframing, what we can do is we just take the position of the XY here and we do an Alt-click, and we can directly parent that, do a little pick whip right down to the position, the brush position. We select that, and then at this point, we already have something really, really cool. We have ourselves an emitter as it writes on. Well, that right there is worth the tutorial. I mean, that right there is cool enough. I'm already at 15 minutes right there, which is pretty much, I mean, all that you would need for a good tutorial. But we're going to keep going. Because, I mean, so already you're seeing the value of how cool this is. We can basically write on with a little tail or trail of particles. Okay, I'm going to go through the duration of it, and it ends right here at the S, but I'm going to crank it forward another, yeah, let's say like 13 seconds. Hit N, and I like to always trim, which isn't a good attribute necessarily because sometimes you need the extra room, but I'm a trimmer. So that's what we got. Well, let's look at the factors involved here, okay? So the emitter right now, we have 100 little, things, particles being emitted, and our position is following that position. Let's look at velocity. Okay, so let's make that 0. Well, then what's happening is as it's going out, that means that the particles aren't shooting out of this point. They're pretty much just existing, and as they're produced, there's no velocity there. They're just staying in that position. So as the emitter moves, they're just slowly being shot out. Well, then let's just crank this number up, and you have kind of a cool little line. It's almost like it's a silly string getting shot out or something like that, especially when you go and take the particle size down to maybe, I don't know, like the width of it. Kind of cool stuff. And to avoid these lines, you just continue to crank this bad boy up, and eventually you'll hit 200,000, which is my happy number. But we don't want to do that quite yet. Okay, so we got velocity down. I don't want to undo a bunch, so I'm just going to bring this back down to 100 where we were. And I don't remember, oh yeah, size. What was that? I think that was 3 again. Maybe it was more, 5. Yeah, it was 5. And what was the other thing we did? Velocity. Okay, let's take the velocity and pop it back up to not that much. Easy killer. I think it starts at 20 or 100 or something like that. Or maybe it was 100. Doesn't matter. Okay, so that's one factor. Okay, what is it that we're really trying to do? We want to create the smoke look. So if we do create this look, that basically what we're doing is we're creating this line. So we're at 0 there. We'll crank it up a little bit more just so we have it. We will crank the size down to about, let's actually make it 0.5. Let's make it wicked small, right? And hopefully you can see this on the screen capture. Well, so that make sure you can see it. I'll make it 1 right now. And then another thing that we want to do is we want to go into physics, and we want to go into air, and then we want to change the turbulent field and affect the position. So it's gonna crank it out and make it. Andrew Kramer talks about this in some of his stuff. This will basically just make a real funky looking, like, what in the world is going on, right? It's just creating, I mean, we talk about silly string. It's pretty extreme. I'm trying to think of how I did it in the final one. Basically, there's so many options that you can do with this. Without affecting the velocity too much, maybe we don't even want to affect the velocity. We can, or we'll leave it at like, what, 5 or something like that. If we crank this up, and you can hold down Shift to really crank it up, you start getting kind of a cool, Smokey effect or whatever, or I don't know, it's something. It's just spraying it out. So let's make that 10, or no, let's make that 15. Okay, and then I don't like how thick that is. So let's just first off, let's just take the opacity and we'll knock it down to 50. Okay, so it's a little softer, and then let's take the opacity over life, and it has a few little presets over here. Let's just have it so that as the life of this thing goes on, it's going to fade out eventually, right? And let's also take the life and bring it down to 2. Or maybe 1? Maybe 1. Let's see, is that too fast? That's too fast. You can't see the full effect there. 2 it is. Okay. And what are some other things that we want to do? Let's see, that's affecting it. It looks like the turbulent field's a little funky. That's maybe a little bit extreme. Let's take it down to 250. And I think at this point, now that we have the turbulent field, maybe we can bring the velocity back down. Every time I do this, it ends up looking a little bit different. Okay, we obviously can't go down to 0 again. So let's go like that. Pretty stinking cool, I'd say. Okay, and let's go velocity from motion. I think maybe this was the one I was looking for. where this is what really velocity random, nothing. This is what kind of sells it as being a smoke effect. And you know, depending on how fast you go, depends on how far it you know, it sprays off. And then I'm gonna kill it right here at the end, so that we go from whatever the current thing is down to page forward 1, which is 0, and you can see that just then the particles will just kind of fade away. Turbulent field. It's not having the exact same look that I was wanting here, so let's make it 150 and soften that up quite a bit. Not soften it, but just make it so it's not as extreme. And let's actually do this. I think I remember what it was. Let's add a little bit of air resistance, and what that's going to do is, as we crank this up, it's going to want to slow it down a little bit. So the air resistance, and if we increase the velocity now, it's all a balance of finding how much you want to. Yeah, that's getting a little bit more normal of what we were originally going for. It's all a balance. All these different factors: the life, how long it stays on there; the velocity, how much it shoots out; the over here the air resistance. You know, how much it's allowing it to spread out, or how much the atmosphere is kind of just thwarting it and slowing it down. The turbulence field, how much it's cranking it out so that it's a different sort of a thing. These are all different variables that you can play with. The opacity, obviously, if you want to make it just a real light, you know, dusting that just kind of lightly goes on there, it can be a thin little wisp. You know, these are all some of the things that you can play with. And going back, let's just think about what are the other factors. Oh, and at the end, what you can do is, okay, so you have that and it fades away. What you can do is, let's just take, let's just add some more words here. We'll take AE tuts again, same word, and this time we will fill it in with a color. Let's make that color red, and let's bring it in over here. Okay, so after it's all been done, what you can do is then apply a simple wipe or something to have this wipe on. And that's kind of what I had done. One thing that I had done for the background, which is kind of a cool thing, if you go new, solid, let's make it bright baby blue this time. And it's comp size, okay. What you can do is apply the Scribble effect to it. And Scribble, actually, I'm sorry, let me back it up a little bit. I'm going to lower the opacity of this really quick just so I see what I'm working with. To apply the Scribble effect, you need to have a mask. So let's have a rectangular mask, and that, oops, I'm sorry, I need to have that layer selected, and then create a mask. Okay, and T, let's bring the opacity back up, and we will, okay, what we do is apply Scribble right to here. And what that does is, from start to finish, it lets you draw on, you know, within this mask. And that can be smooth. It can be that where it, like if you notice here, it can be a moving scribble, or what I tend to prefer is just a static scribble. So that once it draws on, it's going to be on. And that is keyframeable as well. So once it goes all the way through, let's just wait and see what we got. It draws all the way through. And at this point, we want to start at, turning it back on again, starting at 0, we want to then have it draw on to 100. Okay. So, and with this, you can also apply, you know, alter the stroke of how big it's going to be. So we have this mask and we have these new words, okay? Well, we want to have these, we want to track mat this, so that it draws on according to this scribble. We can actually call this one Scribble, just so that we know. So now at this point, it's going to draw the fill in based off of what we had just scribbled in. And let's also do this while we're doing it. You know, it's scribbling, but we want to have it, by the time it gets to about the end, we want to have it be full. So right about here, we'll keyframe the stroke at 2. And then by the time it gets to here, let's crank it up so it fills in completely, right? so that, yes, it's drawing on, and we can adjust that a little bit. What are we in stroke width? We'll have it go right there. So it draws on a little bit, but then as it continues to draw on, it's just gonna kind of fill in. And we'll hit F9. And yeah, we'll hit F9 to make that an easy ease thing, or you can just go easy ease F9, same thing. There you go. And it'll draw on, and that's pretty much it. If you want, you know, let's see here. I'm gonna edit this part a little bit. And so what I had done, okay, wait, let me pause. And so that's the basic gist of what I'd done for the second half. As far as the beginning, how I introduced it, all that I did is, okay, instead of, let me just get rid of these words here for a moment. Delete, I know it's gonna mess up everything, and mess up everything, and mess up everything. What I had done, honestly, was I took the position of the particles, oops, let's not have that parented there anymore. Okay, the XY position, I had keyframed it right to here, and let's actually bring that back. Just right off the get-go, I had, do I have multiple keyframes? No. And if you just move it forward, you can continue to have it, you know, move around, and it'll add a funky little thing. Notice the life is dying here. But as it moves, it's going to kind of do that. Now, I made it appear as though it's going from left to right, and all I did with that, honestly, was I went down here to the wind, and, sorry, that's, I want X wind. You can just have it blow way over that way, so that as it's going, it looks like it's shooting through, when all that's happening is there's just a wind blowing these particles that way. And I had to go all the way through, and let's set the keyframe for the wind there, and I think it had actually ended up right around this point, or, you know, it can end up wherever you want it to be, in which case I'll get rid of that. But you know, you can keyframe it for there, bringing up both keyframes, and then just move forward one frame, and then set that keyframe, or, you know, set the wind back down to 0. And then here at any point, wherever you move it around, it will, you know, at that point you can swap it out, so then it will be following whatever. And so it's like a flying sperm kind of, if I can say that. I don't know if that's inappropriate, but it kind of looks like that a little bit. I'm sure you could play around with it and make it legitimately look so. Maybe for health class, if you want to do a class project or something like that. It's not crass or crude. That's anatomy right there. That's life. So yeah, this is Adam Everett Miller with, oh, okay. So yeah, this is Adam Everett Miller with aetuts.com, and I hope you enjoyed the tutorial, and I'll talk to you soon.